What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Herr Lounge podcast. If you haven't yet, guys, make sure you go on over to Her Apparel, purchase our newest items that we have out, and there's a ton of stuff on sale because we're getting ready already for January. And I know we just did Christmas, but Christmas stuff, but still, y'all supposed to be buying gifts for Christmas, so I hope y'all did that already. Anyway, before I get started, you guys know I like to start with a positive quote. This is such a lame one because it's everywhere, and I know. And if you hear it, you're like, what? I can't believe she's reading that. I know. Hold on. I'm going somewhere with it, I promise. Be a boss, date a boss, build an empire. And the reason why I said that is Juan sent me this podcast. Juan, tell him what the name of that podcast is because I always forget. What's her name?
I don't know the name of the podcast, but it's Layla Hermosi.
Yeah, Layla Hermosi, and then her husband. I'm sure you guys have seen him on social media a lot. And the episode that he sent over to me was the one about where a lot of people asked them about like how are they a power couple and like how they work together, how they're able to work together, which Juan's like, I think you and Chingo have a lot of similarities with this podcast. You might really enjoy it and get some good take from it.
So hers is called Build with Layla Hermosi.
Oh, yeah, Build with Layla Hermosi.
And with Alex, his is The Game. But like both of them, like this is like the first, like their concepts of their relationship. The reason why it stuck out to me is because I'm like, I have never in my life heard these concepts. And I'm resonating with everything they're saying, which is why I was like, dude, like what in the world? Like, I didn't know there's people like this. Like, I thought I was the only weird one. So like, I'm like listening to their stuff and I was like, oh, this exists, but like it's rare. And so like when I heard it, I was like, hey, y'all gotta listen to this.
And they found each other on an app. Yeah. That's what's weird.
They found each other on Bumble. Well, the thing is that it's not like they just found each other right away. It's like apparently the whole story is this real quick. They were both on dating apps so quick, but if you get to like try to understand Alex and the way she is as well, Layla, you understand that they're very like almost Asperger-y a little bit to where where they just like no bullshit. They're very like analytical, very cut the bullshit out. Like, and so he would just be like, okay, we're talking on the phone real quick. Okay, there's our first date. Okay, and they talked, and he was like, I like you. And so he's like, we're going to meet. Boom, they met, and then they just hit it off. But, like, they didn't even talk about dating. They weren't even... It's a weird story. Y'all got to hear it. But, like, for the most part, they weren't even in... Like, they didn't end up dating, or they didn't get together until, like, later. They got into business first together. That's how weird it was.
Well, yeah. And then she said something that was very interesting to me. She said, people always want to call us a power couple. But power doesn't mean like he's got power and I don't, and I have power and he doesn't. It's like power couple means we both have power. And she used examples about how there are certain things that he's obviously better at. So she balances him out to where she's now kind of riding along with what his suggestion is, right? And then it's vice versa, where he explained like sometimes he's kind of more of an impulse. She's kind of more of a thinker. So then that kind of balances it out. So they both have power.
She's better with people. He's better with the actual like marketing part of it. But the other thing is they came up with this concept that I liked, and I was like, oh, that is really true. Like I don't know anything that can kind of go against it. I mean, I'm sure there's other dynamics, but essentially the reason they broke their stuff down like this was because they both have an understanding that there's relatively two different dynamics in a relationship. One is either there's one leader and there's one follower, right? Where one always takes the back seat. And so that's like the majority normal. That's the way the dynamic has to work. So that's why a lot of relationships right now are failing, because you have this bad girl. So like they want a leader, but then they keep coming in like that, and they're not taking the part that they need for it to work. So there's that dynamic of one leader, one follower. And then there's the other dynamic that they have, and they're the ones, and they kind of explain it to where it's like you have two couples that lead that are both in the same game, but they take turns with roles. Meaning neither one of them doesn't mind being on the sideline when they need to be. So they figure out what the most efficient way is, and this is where they agree. They both agree. They figure out which way is the most efficient way that's going to work for whatever they're trying to accomplish, and then they switch out roles depending on what it is, and they know to get out of each other's way and to also not get their feelings hurt one way or the other.
Whenever I heard that part, because she talked about that also on that same podcast. I don't know if that was from another, but it was a short podcast, so that one. But
efficient people.
Yeah, exactly. She was very efficient in those 30 minutes. And when she said that, it's funny because when I took a seat back and didn't do anything Mighty Swole Lifts related, I wasn't doing anything like that. I was just kind of documenting my journey through the bodybuilding. I stopped teaching, stopped doing personal training. I stopped doing a lot of stuff because now my role was to manage my husband, right? And that was a new role for me. I'd never done that before. I also was never somebody who would probably be a sideline person. If anything, my personality is very I'm very much that, bitch, I don't think so. Like, independent woman, like that was my vibe for a very long time until I got with Chingo. And for some odd reason, it never felt sideline-ish to me, if that makes sense. Like, I never felt like I was...
Well, because you weren't. Like, this is what I mean when I say sideline and not sideline. You're still in the game because you're literally in the same game as Chingo. Like, where you're both in the same business, complementing each other. Chingo is not great at the what is it? What do you want to call that? The part that you are like the management position, having to worry about paperwork and stuff. Yeah. Right. So organization, paperwork, forget about it. So when you're in there and you're like, oh, I'm cool. Boom. I'm right here. You're literally in the game. It's in the same game. It's just a different muscle you're flexing that he doesn't have. Where it's like, oh no, we're still in the same game. Like, we're both on the same team. So together, it's like, oh, let's fucking do that. This is Mighty Soul's part. Go ahead. And that's why he calls you the shark. But that's it. Literally, you're in the same thing where it's like, oh no, this is working together because it's working in harmony. Where he's literally like, whatever Mighty Soul says, I don't know. And then whenever he does need to step in, where it's like, can we try this? And then you're like, let's do it. Boom. And it gets done because you're both on the same page. Now, what I mean by the sideline person is where they don't really know what's going on in that business. Like, let's say Chingo was the comedian and you didn't know anything about his business. You didn't know anything about comedy. You didn't know anything. And you're just like, yeah, you do it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to take care of the kids. I'm going to do this other part at the house. I don't want to know anything about your work. Those are the people that typically is like, I don't know anything about your job, but I love you and I take care of the kids and I do this other part of the thing, but I don't know anything about your day to day. And so those are the two the dynamics, which you were very much involved in everything Chingo's success and everything. So you guys working together, that's what I mean by the team. Like, you're both part of the team. I was like, okay, I'm the quarterback right now. You step out real quick.
Yeah, for sure. I don't have any problem. Like, I'd love to stay home, by the way. So if that was ever an option for me, oh my God, that'd be great. Yeah. By the way, can we tell him that? So, trust me, I've thought about but then here's the pride thing, which whenever you kind of presented it to me, and this is behind the scenes stuff that we're about to kind of get into right now that I don't really ever discuss. No one ever sees. I don't post about it just because, some things are just not kept, or, this is just for the folks that I guess like to listen to me and I want to discuss. But the other day you made a comment of I said I never wanted Chingo to post anything that was my business stuff related because I never wanted for anybody to say, oh, well, she only has, this because her husband helped her out by posting about it because he's got a really big following, you know? And so I never wanted that. But then when you were like, yeah, no, but that is how it works. Like, he helps you, you help him. Like, it needs to be where he does push your brand just because you're also pushing his brand. Like, it needs to work that way, right? But I guess for me it was like I never wanted anybody. It was like pride, I guess, where I never wanted anybody to say like she was only able to do that because, you know, her husband, you know, is a comedian and she's able to do the following, you know. And I was always like, well, that's the last thing I want, because I kind of felt like, wait, I worked myself on my own following. This is before my husband, you know, like, and for now people just to associate me with him. One time at the show, someone said, oh, are you Chingo's wife? And I was about to say yes. And then the wife said, no, her name's Marisol and she's got her own brand. So she and Chingo are husband and wife. And I was like, it's okay. I'm like, I'm Chingo's wife. Like, I'm proud to be my husband's wife. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have this like ego to where I feel like, oh, I'm just his wife. I know I'm not just his wife. Like, and just because I don't post about all the million things that I take care of, I don't feel any less than, if that makes sense. But one thing that she did say, which I've been meaning to tell Chingo about, is that she said that sometimes she needs husband Alex because he's on, like, I guess, business mode a lot of the time, right? And that they don't argue in front of their employees. I said, whoop. That's not us. I was like, Rob's been a part of like arguments. You've been a part of arguments. Comedians. When Midnight would be there, it'd be, and Midnight would always laugh because it was always about his driving. Oh my God, y'all, Chingo's driving. Woo! Chingo's driving. So he would laugh because he would say, Mom and Dad, can y'all stop fighting? Midnight would say that when he'd be in the back seat, because it just like, I just feel like I feel like his brain, like if I could do an x-ray when he's driving, I feel like his hamster's like going so hard. He's not like focused on the road. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I feel like he's not like, he's always thinking
of other stuff.
Yeah, all the time.
I do that too.
And so I don't feel like he's there. When he and I first started dating, I bought him a journal because he would wake up in the middle of the night and I'd find little papers where he would write joke ideas that he would dream about. And so I'd be cleaning, right? And then the nightstand would have all these little papers, like whatever he would find. I guess he was asleep, so he'd try to find a pen somewhere in a piece of paper and he'd write it and he'd leave it on the nightstand. And so then he would always like kind of like had a tick when he slept, almost like his brain was going. Although, you know what I heard ticks are those are a form of seizures, and I didn't know that. It's interesting. I know, like when you're sleeping, you tick like that, like out of nowhere. There's a form of seizures. I didn't know, but so I bought him a journal, and I said, oh, and how I found out was those papers. I didn't know how those papers were happening, first of all, but then I woke up one night to go to the restroom and I caught him in the living room writing. And I said, what are you doing? And he was like, I got this joke idea and it came to me in my dream, so I need to write it down. So like a lot of his thoughts were happening like that, to where he's way more calm now. When I first met him, it was like foot on the like gas all the way through all day long. Like it would never get turned off. You know what I'm saying? He does such a better job now at turning it off now. He actually turns it off for the most part. You know, he might get a one or two, comment in there, but like most of the time he's good at cutting it off now. But yeah, that was part of it. And then I finally got him a journal and I said, you got to like start writing these ideas down, because like he'd lose the notes or he couldn't find anything, But I say all that to say he learned how to turn it off, but we don't know. We still don't know how to separate husband and wife from this. Is now we're having a meeting for Chingo Bling touring. Now I'm good at not bringing in like being annoyed, right? but he doesn't know how to, like, he wants us, he's annoyed about it. So it's funny because I'll be like, let's just not talk about it. Like, let's just leave it alone. And he'd be like, no, I just can't not talk about it. Like, we need to talk about it. Then I'll be fine.
It needs to get worked out.
It needs to get worked
I'm the same
out.
way.
See, I'm somebody I can come in and be like ignoring it, and then, all right, we'll deal with it later, you know, because we got shit to handle right now. So for him, it's like, in order for us to handle it, that needs to be handled first. You see what I'm saying? So I'm like,
I'm saying
I can work. Yeah, I can work whether, like, whatever. But when she said, I was like, all right, I need to tell Chingo we need to work on that, because we need to separate, you know, husband and a lot of our arguments are two things. One, him not being organized. Hence, we just talked about it, right? And two, it has to do with, like, business. Like, did we do this? Did we do that? And frustration, and, you know, like, did this go out? And, you know, that part of the business, you know, rarely is the argument like, you upset me, you hurt my feelings, you didn't bring me a flower today, what happened? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, personal, I guess that would fall. Is that the category that would kind of fall under?
Well, so there's like two things to this. One that they said, and two, what I'm saying. The thing with this is, remember how I told you in another podcast, I think it was a relationship podcast, there was one where I was telling you how after 2 years, like, most people need to figure out, like, their own identity.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's exactly how you guys have to deal with this. Like, as far as, like, don't take any outside advice from, like, other people, like, because they don't understand you. So, like, once you've kind of figured out your own individual identities, and then you've been in a marriage long enough, at that point, then it's where you guys get to, like, now paint on a canvas of, like, okay, let's figure us out. Like, there's individual me likes this, individual you likes this. Now let's figure out what we can work out together of system where it works for us. And this goes into what she's saying of, like, hey, so it's almost like a code word. It's like, hey, when I tell you, there's the code word. So when I tell you I need husband Chingo, or I need, you know, wife Marisol right now, not business Marisol, not the shark, put the shark away. We know that those are code words of, like, okay, let me figure out, because that's another thing is, like, those safe words could be even whenever, like, you guys are in a meeting or something, and he could just, like, lean over and be like, I need the shark. And so that it's a trigger for you to know, oh, I must have said something fucked up. Okay, let me dial back and then figure it out. But those are things that only you as a couple would have to do, because there's not a lot of couples that are in business, also run management, and also run point and stuff. So it's like, that's a system y'all got to try to, like, a language y'all got to figure out. And those are things that I would suggest that y'all got start working out when y'all go on, like, dates, those extra dates and stuff, is to kind of have those conversations, like those difficult conversations, like, hey, maybe we should do this, or maybe we should take these things and maybe apply them. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, because listening to them, I felt like we had a lot of similarities in, like, you know, when they talked about, like, their past, and, you know, how the people they dated, they were never really, like, eye to eye. And I kind of always felt that way too. Like, it was not eye to eye. I'm a little bit more of a, like, goal oriented, I guess, or, like, I guess.
I don't know if they broke it down in here, but they talked about, like, the reason they think that they link up so well together is because they treat it like a business, to where it's like they have their mission, and then under their mission they have their goals and their standards, and then under that they have everything else. And as long as they both have the same mission, and that's the way most marriages should be, it should be like that with everything. If you guys don't have a mission, because again, it's not a factor of, like, I won in this marriage. It's a factor of, like, we're playing the game together. So one of us is going to die. That's how this ends. Okay. So somebody's got to die. Like, that's how the game ends. It's not like we got to get a divorce. No. Take that out of your mind. It's not about that. So if it's not about that and you're in a marriage, what's your mission? Like, what are you guys trying to do? Are you just trying to be happy? Are you actually trying to accomplish stuff? What stuff are you trying to accomplish? And this could go with anybody that's not even in a marriage where you're both in business. It's literally like, what is the ultimate goal of us two being together? So the journey, okay, but what about the journey? Like our mission could be, I just want to be happy when I come home. Like I want my refuge to be home.
Yeah.
And so our ultimate goal is to like build this home to where we can both shelter ourselves from this fucked up world. You know what I mean? Like, and we watch each other's back this way. Like those could be small things for even the normal person. But because you guys have business and in the business together, y'all can build up even more because you're also trying to be influencers and stuff. So then the mission and the goal has to be something even bigger than that, where it's like, what is y'all's goal to other people? Like, what are y'all trying to build? And what are you trying to build for your children? And I think we have to look into deeper stuff of that. And again, this goes into all the stuff I've been chewing on for these past couple months, because I'm literally like, when I say organized, I mean there's a lot into working with you guys. Not like bad, but I'm saying like it's because I overdo stuff. So like when I'm thinking of stuff, I'm like, okay, we can just like when you guys hired me to help Chingo, it's not like I was just hired to like just. It was like literally what I did was, okay, he wants me to help. How would I help? And then I went into like a deep dive on all his stuff. I like looked at his stuff. I was like, oh, characters. Okay, dude, we could build this because that's when he was taking a lot of heat. So I was like, let's get the attention off of Chingo for a second and maybe go into this. And that's
when no one liked us.
That's when nobody liked us. But like those were the type of things where I was like, okay, cool. So we need to do this, and this. And it became a whole, it's almost like starting up a whole business, tearing down the old foundation and then start to consult.
Oh no, it was completely torn down. No, not like it was.
Yeah, so it's like we had to build a whole new foundation and everything. And so over like the year or two, it's coming into like, okay, everything is starting to work. So now it's like, how do we improve like other things? Like, and so that's what I'm working on right now. But it goes even deeper than that. The more stuff I'm learning where it's like, well, if the game is to keep going as an influencer and stuff, what is our purpose? Like, yeah, we can get tickets to, shows and sell products, but there's a lot of people that love you guys beyond that stuff, and they just want to ride with you guys. So then it's like, okay, so what benefit do we give them? It's comedy, laughter, a relief. Like there's a bunch of stuff that goes into thinking about a lot of this stuff, and that's what came in with marketing and sales. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm having to learn like 5 different new skills where I'm like,
everything. That's why like I try to like the least possible to put on you, because it's like already like even like trying to grow, like, because it literally was growing Chingo's brand all over again from, because people had a problem, they didn't know how to take a different opinion than where they were standing. And I think people during that time, look at me using these words from a meeting that we just had. I'm about to use it. People were emotional during that time.
Yeah.
So they were doing things, that were uncalled for. And perhaps there's been a few people who left unnecessary comments, and then they've come all the way around now, and, we've made it work again, you know who you are, okay. I'm just gonna flip my hair right quick.
But yeah, so there was a bunch of that stuff. So my whole point to that is like having to restructure all that. These are actually skills I needed to learn anyways, and so it was like one big like, oh, we're both benefiting off of this. But like doing all that, it's being more business minded has really helped center me a little bit to where it's like, oh, I could apply this to relationship. It's almost like you could take the skills you learn, obviously, and then apply it to everything else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it all goes hand in hand.
But being in a relationship is a business. Like the way it is like that. And I've said this before in a ton of podcasts. It's like you have to sit there and reevaluate your relationship ever so often, the same way you get evaluated at work every quarter or every, one time a year, whatever it is, right? But Like when I hear someone said, oh, I'm not going to ask my husband, he never wants to help. Okay, you did that though. You allowed him to never have to help. So now, like, the only person that should be mad about that, it should be you, because you gave him this okay to not have to ever participate. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, let's talk about this at work now. So you're not going to ask for help at work. If you're not able to get something done, you're not going to go to your boss and say, hey, listen, so I'm kind of struggling in this part of work. Do you think I can get some help? Because otherwise I'm not going to finish everything that needs to be turned in by the end of the month, or whatever it is, right? So it's the same way with the relationship. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I need help with this. And if you want if you want me not to be a bitch, if you want me to like not be, or be okay with, like, you know, what the number one thing I guess that most people are like, I guess I always hear is like sex. There's the sex. Well, yeah, sex becomes an issue because if other things are not being fulfilled, right? And then you're expected to still perform, you know what I'm saying? Just because, oh, my husband, like, yeah, husband, but guess what else? I wouldn't be so damn tired if you would have probably washed the dishes, you know what I'm saying? Or you would have put a load to wash, or you would have put the kids to sleep, so that I could go take a bath and come back and be refreshed and greet you with a smile, or, you know what I'm saying? Or be happy to be, you know, laying in bed together. And if that means intimacy time, then that means intimacy time. You see what I'm saying? So like, it has to be, he also has to be willing to help some of that stress, take some of that stress off of you, so that you can also behave in a manner to where he's like grateful and your kids are grateful. You know what I'm saying? If you're always frustrated and always on edge because it's just everything's always on you, then yeah, that becomes a problem. And then it's like, that's where I feel the tension begins, and then it builds up to where you're angry and you're annoyed at your other half because they're never there the way you need them, and it's always falling on you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's the messed up thing about this whole, the way everybody's perceiving relationships has become more about emotion and feelings.
Yeah.
And that's why I think when we say treat it like a business, people are like, oh, that's icky. And I think it's because people are like, Disney and Hollywood have said, no, it's this magical thing you got to find, and it's going to be, and you're going to love them. You're going to fall in love. It's like, no, realistically, that's not what happens. Like, honestly, if you break it down, it's like, realistically, you lust over somebody. Like, you think they're attractive, and then you're like, oh, I want that. Until then you get to know them, and it's a point of like, do I like this person? Oh, I kind of like them. I genuinely like them. The love comes later. Like, as far as like love is like long lasting. It's like like it becomes unconditional. It becomes to a point where it's undescribable because these are things that everything compounds into love. You start to care enough about you. First, you're attracted to somebody. Then you start to like them because you have similar interests or whatever. And you're like, oh, I like being around this. I genuinely like being around this person. And then it becomes a different level of care.
Yeah. So,
and those three compound to the point of like, oh, this is love. Like, I genuinely want to be with this person, and boom. Like, this is the person. Love doesn't just like, it's not just like, I fell in love with this person. It's like, no, you're lusting over that person. You just want to have sex with that person, whatever it is. That's something different. But people, it's been so watered down, this word love, that everybody just throws it around like, I love this ice cream, I love that, I love it, and don't understand the meaning of when they're saying it. And so we if you break it down, you have to break it down to like almost business terms. And I know people don't know, a lot of people don't know a lot about business, but like the concepts that people make to build a successful business, you can put into place to build a successful relationship. Relationship or marriage, whichever, because they all have different ones, because you still got to put up boundaries. You still have to put up different things, because until it is love where it's like unconditional, it's all conditional. Meaning at first when you meet somebody, it is conditional. Like, especially right now, look at the way the temperature in society is. It's like women don't want a guy that doesn't make a certain amount of money, because what's the reason for them making a certain amount of money? Because of security. It's not even necessarily that they can make that money. It's literally that, am I secure with this guy? That's what they're wanting, is security. And so it just comes out in the form of money. But like, it could be a bunch of stuff. Like, you know what I mean? Like there could be, the guy won't be with the girl that's not going to take direction or whatever it is. Like there's certain things of characteristics that go back thousands of years where it's like, are you submissive? Not in a bad way, but like, are you able to be like, can I reason with you? Like, can we have conversations, or are you just going to bully me in this relationship? Like, and if that's the case, we don't need to waste time.
Yeah. Because,
people are going into the relationships like trying to like get the richest guy, the most successful guy, or the hottest girl, or whatever it is, and they think like, oh, I did it, I did an accomplishment. Not going into a relationship thinking, can I build a future with this person to where, and everybody wants this. They want to be cared for, they want to be wanted, and they want a place where they can get away from the world. Meaning, when I go home, I don't want to come home to stress. Who the fuck wants to do that?
Yeah.
Right. Your home should be a place where it's like rest. Like when I go home, I'm resting. Like I'm resting with the woman I love. Like I should be able to, like when I take vacation or when I leave my work, I should be able to come home and be like, yes.
Absolutely.
But people are like, you know what? I'll work some extra overtime right now so I don't have to go home.
No.
That exists.
Yeah, that is.
I've had that.
I've had same.
So where it's like, you know what? I think I need extra.
I think I'm going to
overtime.
stay a little. I'm going to teach an extra class today.
Yeah, and when it becomes like that, it becomes resentful. But if you have that marriage right now, that doesn't mean it's over. It just means you have to do work. Meaning, you literally have to go home and like try to figure out where the problems are. Once you fix all the problems, then it's gonna be like, oh, we're back to square one.
And then if you have a partner in my opinion, if you have a partner that does not want to hear you out, does not want to sit there and be like, hey, let's talk about this. Like, let's find a solution so that you can be happy and I can be happy, right? And I feel like if one just doesn't want to work it, like, I just really feel like at that point, it's like disrespectful and just, you don't care. You really don't care about our relationship. You really don't care about my feelings. You don't care about like how your actions make me feel. You know what I'm saying? There's like so much to unpack there when someone is not willing to like sit down and discuss, because a lot of it has to do with the other person not wanting to hear, that they're not doing something right. You know what I'm saying? And so instead of a person feeling like, oh, you're saying I'm this, you're saying I'm that, I'm not doing that. Oh yeah, bitch. Well, what about like what I bought you last week? You weren't saying that when I bought you that bag. You know what I'm saying? Like when you get like immature people like that, or like discussions where you throw things in people's face from last week or 2 weeks ago or last month, whatever it is, at that point, I feel like whether that's the male or the female, I feel like you should really think about if this is what you want to do for the remainder of your life. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if this is this the kind of relationship you want to have? And is this the kind of person you want to be with forever? Because that person needs to know how you feel now, how you're starting to feel, because I feel like that's where the like disconnect starts to happen. And then people start to go this way. They grow apart because there was never that one conversation that needed to be had to keep them going together again. You know what I'm saying? Like to keep you back on that path.
Yeah, but don't just take this advice like that. Think of it like this. In order for you to have that conversation. So, okay, let's say this is just for the average person. I'm telling you this from experience. Let's say you want to have this kind of conversation with your spouse and you're already in a situation like that. You have to take the onus on yourself to look in the mirror first and literally diagnose yourself before you can have this conversation. Meaning, if you know that they're going to react a certain way, they react that way because of things you've done and patterns they've seen in you in the past. Meaning, a guy's not going to want to have a conversation with a woman if he knows that most of the time she flies off the handle. Or same thing vice versa. Because you guys have already been in arguments in the past, you kind of know what triggers each one of you have. So before you're even going to engage in something like this, you literally have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and make sure you don't fly off the handle and can literally have this conversation to where you're not going to scare them. She's going to call me a bitch, or she's going to do this. I can't deal with this, and I got to walk away, or I got to like say something. You're going to literally have to like stop all your triggers that are going to prevent them from actually being able to sit down and actually have a conversation.
For sure. That's what I'm saying though. And then like, so when
sometimes it's that person though, like literally trying to figure out like, oh, they can't have this conversation because they're scared that I want to react this way.
And I feel like sometimes though, like, that's why I said, like, if either party is not open for discussion, that's what I mean. Like, I really feel like you need to analyze sometimes we get complacent in relationships. Sometimes we're just with someone because we're used to them.
Right.
Sometimes people stay in relationships because, oh my God.
Kids.
Yeah. Oh my God, I don't want to start over again. Like, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm like older now. Where am I going to start dating? Who will I date? So a lot of people will just be put up with whoever they're with and be miserable, but be cheating because they're miserable at home. And you know what I'm saying? They just, you know, they don't want to go through the whole, like having the conversation of like, hey, we need to talk. Like, I don't know I'm going to take that back. Maybe you do. Like, I know what my flaws are. Mm-hmm. My husband knows what his flaws are. I think most of us know what our flaws are, unless you're someone who's just fucking just.
Well, this is the thing, and I'll preface it with this, but like we're a little over. But let me say it like this, and then because there's a lot to this. It's like it's not just a simple thing, but you can't control, even if you're in a marriage, you can't control what the other person does. So the reason I say you have to self-diagnose first is because you have to change you before you can change them. Even if you wanted to change them, they're just going to change based on the person you're presenting to them. Meaning, if you start to do stuff for the better, if they love you, they'll start to change a little bit too. Not because you're making them, but because it's in response to you. So when you're in a marriage, that's why I tell you, like, y'all have to work on it yourselves after 2 years, because y'all have to become something different to each other. And so when you're changing stuff about you, because that's the only person you can control, they start to like, either they like what they're seeing and they start to like, oh, I got to change too, or what's going on? Like, is something going on? And then they'll start having the conversation on their own with like, are you okay? Like, I see you're doing this health thing. What's going on? And they'll start to like pique interest. And it's at that point that they'll start to make the change themselves based on the reactions and things that you're doing on your own. Mm-hmm. And it just happens that way. And some people can deal with it and level up with you. And some people will fall away and be like, I can't do this. I'm fucking miserable. Mm-hmm. Like, you're changing the way we're eating and you're doing it. I don't like it. Mm-hmm. Like, those are then that's when you have those conversations. But it only comes when you start making that change for yourself. And the other thing is like, some people don't know that they have, that's what marriage is. Like, people don't know that their flaws are, because you don't even realize some of the flaws you have. What? Meaning, when you get into a marriage, you have a certain way of doing things on your own because we're self-involved and we're trying to just be happy for ourselves. When you get into a marriage or a relationship or anything like that, that's when you really start to peel back the layers of like, oh shit, why does that bother me? Mm-hmm. And then you start realizing like, oh, do I do that? Like, oh shit, that's what I do. And they point it out to you because they see it from the outside, and you actually trust them enough to be like, oh, I guess it is me. Not just some friend that you have that's a fair weather friend or anything else that's just like telling you like, no, you do you, you do you. It's like, oh no, this is a bad habit I need to kick. Like, and I didn't realize it until my husband said, or until my girlfriend said, or whatever it is. Like, you know, I didn't like, it's like seeing like you have something in your teeth and somebody not telling you, you just don't realize you have it there until they like, hey man, you got something in your teeth. Like, it's one of those things where marriage like peels back layers of yourself, which is why you become a whole entity when you become in a relationship. And that's why y'all work on that. And you start to peel back layers of yourself. They start to peel back layers of themselves, and you get better. The problem is nobody stays in marriages long enough now to realize that, because everybody breaks up or divorces soon now. Nobody's in those long-term relationships the long-term people that have been in relationships forever, some of those people are some of the coolest people because they've already peeled back a shitload of layers for years over time, and those are some of the coolest people.
And I want to get into the layers for this next episode. So we'll leave our listeners on a cliffhanger. So if you haven't come on over yet to the Patreon, guys, y'all come join us to hear part 2 of this. You guys have a great week. Bye.